I don't understand it.
Despite his serious injuries, Sherman recovered sufficiently to complete his naval service. He and Joy were married in 1946, but 2 years later, his health took a turn for the worse.
He passed out at work, and he was carried to the doctor's office, and I went down to the doctor's office and met him there.
Well, you're only 21, 22 years old.
That's right.
This doctor did some blood work and so forth, and my wife was with me, and he said, you've been poisoned.
I said, I beg your pardon?
But Sherman kept the Navy secret for another 30 years while his physical condition continued to deteriorate. Only when he was totally disabled did he reluctantly tell his wife how he had gotten poisoned. They were in yet another doctor's office.
And you're hearing for the first time that your husband had been exposed to mustard gas and lewisite.
And I hesitated to even mention it.
Because you had sworn national security, secrecy to the Navy that you would not do that.
That's right.
What was your reaction, Miss Shea?
Well, I was startled. And to look at his face when the doctor asked him, were you ever in any testing, he went ashen, and the tears came. And to Nat's eyes.
What Dr. Smith said?
He said, go immediately to the VA hospital and file for your records, for your service and medical records. They'll have all the records. The answer to that is wrong.
Anthony Principi is Deputy Secretary of the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs.
There were few medical records on these individuals. There was no medical follow-up, and it made it very, very difficult for them to prove their case.
Oh, that's quite an indictment that you've just laid out. Classified, no medical records, difficult for them to prove their case, and this is almost 50 years later.
That's correct.
It's a disaster. Isn't the country responsible? Isn't the VA responsible? Behind you there, Mr. Secretary, it says, to care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan, said by Abraham Lincoln. That's what these guys did.
You're absolutely right. They should be praised for what they did. And as far as the Secretary and I are concerned, we're about to do right by them.
Nat Sherman is asking the VA to compensate him for a number of long-term medical problems he claims are related to being exposed to mustard gas and lewisite.
I don't have the use of my legs. I can burn myself or cut myself. I don't know it. I don't feel it. I have lung disease. I have heart disease. I had kidney stones. My eyes were in terrible shape. You know, there's blepharitis and photophobia.
Is there any doubt in Dr. Riegelson's mind that exposure to mustard gas is responsible for these conditions?
I don't have any hesitation in saying I think so, yes.
So why, when we began our investigation, was the VA still denying that Sherman's injuries were service-connected?
They didn't want to open up the door relevant to responsibility for the 2,000 men that were subjected to this.
You mean a financial responsibility? That's what worries them?
They certainly fought hard enough to try to avoid any responsibility. I can say that.
For years, the VA was able to dodge responsibility because the Navy insisted there had been no mustard gas test.
I have a letter here, Mr. Chairman, from the Department of the Navy back in 1977, which says, a thorough search of all records failed to disclose that you were ever involved in mustard gas experiments, which were conducted at Edgewood Army Arsenal, Maryland, in which you state that you inhaled large amounts of mustard gas through a defective gas mask.
Yes, I've seen the letter. Of course, they can say anything they want to as long as they held all the records.
Finally, Sherman was able to obtain his own official service record, but there was a gap of 2 weeks. The 2 weeks he was assigned to Edgewood Arsenal.
I simply disappear from the logs of Bainbridge and suddenly reappear, according to Captain John Rowe, who examined the logs, said there's not even an explanation of why the man is not there.
And so the last 16 years has been a
Paper search
for those records.
for those records.
These boxes contain the results of that 16-year paper search. Sherman used these documents to sue the government in an unsuccessful attempt to get compensation for his injuries.
After being turned down repeatedly by the VA, Sherman, Cavell, and 2 other veterans sought help from 60 Minutes and from Congressman Porter Goss of Florida.
And as we pursued it, what I discovered was that, in fact, the government had done some things that it hadn't fessed up to, and that it had done them in such a way that it was very clearly some victims were being deprived of what I think were their contractual rights, if not their moral rights.
Were you satisfied with the answers that the VA gave?
No, I was not. I think that the answers they gave were cooperative, but I don't think that they were exhaustive. And I think
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, I think that they are not running and hiding anymore. I think now they are coming out and saying, yes, this did happen, and yes, there's a problem, and unfortunately there's nothing we can do about it because we don't have this data to prove that we have disabilities here.
That's the way matters stood when we went to talk to Secretary Principi.
I'm concerned about their well-being today and changing the policy here. It was difficult for them to prove their case.
Who made it difficult?
The government.
The VA?
No, the VA didn't make it difficult for them to prove
The
it.
Navy?
Everybody did.
The government?
I think it was collectively. The fault can be shared by many departments. The point is, what do we do about it?
Have you seen this article?
No, I have not.
If I may, Mr. Secretary, let me read you a couple of. The horrifying case of 4 Navy veterans used as human guinea pigs in chemical warfare experiments during World War II could bring long overdue reforms to the federal agency that serves veterans. Anthony Principi, Deputy Secretary of the Department of Veterans Affairs, told a House subcommittee he's working to correct VA deficiencies revealed by the case. His testimony about a remarkable change of heart at the VA happened to coincide with the appearance of television cameras for the CBS News program 60 Minutes.
There was no change of heart, Mike. That's somewhat misleading. We didn't learn about it, at least at my level, until very, very recently.
For whatever reason, it was shortly after our interview with Secretary Principi that he announced the VA was relaxing the rules for World War II veterans exposed to mustard gas, making it much easier for them to collect compensation.
We worked very hard on Agent Orange, and mustard gas is very consistent with that. Again, the fact that I learned about it from 60 Minutes or from Congressman Porter Goss is not as important as the fact that we admit that if we've made a mistake, let's correct it and get on with it.
Since that report, Ned Schnerman was granted 100% disability compensation, and Charles Cavell received 50%. And the Navy recently acknowledged that as many as 60,000 recruits had taken part in some form of mustard gas testing during World War II. According to Admiral Kendall Pease, the Navy's chief spokesperson, quote, "The Navy recognizes that no matter how important the research, the use of Navy people to test protection against noxious gases was not appropriate. We no longer do such tests." 2 final notes. Congressman Porter Goss, who led the effort to help the mustard gas victims, has introduced legislation directing the Defense Department to issue a commendation and to provide assistance to all World War II gas test survivors. And we'd also like to thank William Rubery of the Richmond Times-Dispatch for helping us with this report.
Good morning, sir. Would you care for a cereal?
Not just plain cereal. Let me tell you what really tastes great. First, I like to start with lots of delicious flakes. Then I'd sprinkle on a bunch of plump, juicy raisins and a few tender,
Dates, sir?
Yeah, dates.
Almonds?
Almonds are crunchy, good call. And what if we sweeten it with some brown sugar?
Brown sugar, of course.
Can you really make something that good?
Trust me, sir. We'll get it right.
The one-of-a-kind taste of Kellogg's Just Right. When it tastes this great, you know it's just right.
Say your family walks on your carpet 20 times a day. That's 600 times a month, 7,000 times a year. It's like having a marching band play halftime in your living room. Fortunately, there's DuPont Masterlight, a big step forward in durability. Its fibers are 33% bigger and stand up better to heavy household traffic. Oh, did we mention the advanced stain protection? New Masterlight carpet. Call 1-800-3MASTER for a Master store near you.
The versatile Ricoh touchscreen copier. For those impressed by its remarkable brain, consider the body. Precision engineered for heavy duty and high volume. Rico's obsession with reliability and performance in a whole new class of machine. And the quality we put into it, you can get out of it right now. Because Rico's touchscreen copiers are not only more productive, they're also more affordable. The name to know, Rico.
Tomorrow, David Letterman's on CBS.
I can't begin to tell you how excited I am. But then again, it could be the vending machine coffee.
Thursday, the journey of a lifetime continues.
What do you see?
I see love. They'll reveal their hearts.
I just don't want you to get hurt.
They'll reveal their souls.
Does the damn bank care about the farmer?
They'll reveal their sins.
I know you want me.
Your destination, Angel Falls, Thursday.
If he were a colonel in the American Army and not the Dutch Army, he'd most likely, if he could get away with it, have been one of the thousands who marched a few months ago in Washington in support of gay rights. But he probably would not have been in uniform because there is, after all, a widespread belief in our Army that allowing gays to serve openly would destroy morale and discipline. Well, in Holland, they have served openly since 1974. And this man, who describes himself as macho, tough, and gay, is a colonel in the Dutch Army Ed Bradley met earlier this year. He told us how he lets new recruits know exactly where he stands.
My name is René Holtel. I'm a colonel of the Royal Netherlands Army. I'm a battalion commander, and I'm gay. So that if you want to see a queen in uniform, they should have a good look for the next 1.5 hours, because this is probably the only time they see a gay lieutenant colonel dressed in uniform.
What's their reaction? What do they say?
They start laughing.
Lieutenant Colonel René Holtel is the highest-ranking openly gay officer in the Dutch Army. But he hasn't always been so open about his homosexuality. For many years, he went to great lengths to hide it.
I tried to change the way I walked. I put a mirror, an extra mirror in my room, and I could see my ass when I was walking from one mirror to another. And when I found that it was wiggling too much, I just put some books on my head and started training until it didn't wiggle anymore.
So in other words, you tried to make yourself look as macho, as tough.
That's right. And that's one of the things that's still bothering me, because it's very difficult to get rid of it. I learned to roll my cigarettes with one hand on my leg because I had seen truck drivers doing that, and I thought a truck driver, he never can be gay. Well, by now I know a little bit more about that.
Colonel Holtel commands a supply battalion which regularly takes part in NATO exercises in Germany. It's an offense for any member of the Dutch Armed Forces to discriminate, either physically or verbally, against another soldier because he or she is gay. Such discrimination could end in court-martial. But does Colonel Holtel think that the fact he's gay affects his ability to command troops?
No, I'm a pro. And the fact that I'm gay is something that has nothing to do with the fact that I'm a professional soldier, that I'm a career officer.
In the Alpha 2 sector.
My battalion staff, I'm working with them very closely, day in, day out, 24 hours a day, every now and then. We're sleeping together, we're showering together, we're living together. And it's no problem whatsoever.
The only problem these soldiers seem to have sharing a tent with Colonel Holtel was the fact that he smokes.
Our chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Colin Powell, says that having gays openly in the military would have a negative effect on discipline, on the order, on morale.
That's what they said about 40 years ago about blacks in the Army. And the president of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in 1993 is a black.
He says this is different.
And I don't agree. It's the same. He is black by birth. I'm gay by birth. I didn't choose for it. It happened to me, just as it happened to him.
Back at the barracks, we asked some of the soldiers in Colonel Holtel's battalion how they felt about having a gay commanding officer.
What did you think when you came here, knowing that? Did you know that the commander here was
No,
gay?
I hear it for the first time now. But I have no problem with it. It's, yes, I think it's normal that someone is gay, if he wants to.
What about showers?
Yeah, what about it? You have showers for girls and you have showers for boys.
Right, but you don't have showers for straight men and showers for gay men.
And gay women. That makes 4 kinds of showers.
But you don't. You only have 2 showers.
People who are not feeling comfortable have to look for another time to take a shower.
Have you found that having gays in your military has been a disciplinary problem?
Not at all. As long as the commanding officer is not dancing in a pink skirt before his troops, it's no problem.
And you don't have that problem with this commander?
No, not at all. No. On the contrary, he's very strict. Yeah.
He runs a tight ship?
Oh, yeah.
He runs a tight ship.
But what if a gay commander doesn't run a tight ship, uses his position to make advances towards a soldier under his command? Colonel Hotel says such behavior would be treated with the same severity as sexual harassment of women soldiers by their male colleagues.
So there are rules of conduct?
Of course there are.
And what happens if they're violated?
You get court-martialed.
Whether it's a man against a woman or a man against another man?
Yeah. What's the difference? If I would try to rape one of my male soldiers, it would be the same as if I would try to rape one of my female soldiers. But I didn't come here because I found this is a male or a gay paradise. I came here because I like the profession.
Major Frans van Dorp is an infantry officer in the Dutch Grenadier Guards, one of Holland's crack units. His partner, Peter, is a singer with the Netherlands Chamber Choir. Major van Dorp, who served with the UN peacekeeping forces in Lebanon, says that not having to hide his homosexuality has allowed him to function better as a soldier.
Do your colleagues, the other soldiers, the other officers, know about Peter?
Yes, he's been to official dues at the barracks.
You go together?
Yes.
And what's their reaction to him?
Colleagues' wives have said, like, now we got 2 men to dance with. Actually, they start a conversation to show how liberal they are. So that's something I don't need either. He's my partner. And so, of course, I take him to official duty, just like I go to concerts with him. That's his job.
Peter, when you accompany the major to parties on the base, are you comfortable doing that?
People do, of course, look at you, because if Frans is on his work alone, he might be gay, but it's not visible, it's not obvious. If we are there together, it's very obvious. And so people look at you, but people don't come to you with feelings of hate or rejection.
Major Van Dorp says he's only once had any kind of trouble in the Army because he was gay, and that was when he needed a higher security clearance.
Is that a valid concern? I mean, some commanders say that someone who is gay could be targeted for blackmail.
No, of course.
It could be a security risk.
When the organization more or less forces their gays to be in the closet, then they can be blackmailed. Actually, they create the situation in which people can be blackmailed. Whereas when you're open about it, who's going to blackmail you? Nobody.
If Marjorie Yonkers were in the U.S. military, she might be a prime target for blackmail because as a sergeant major in the Dutch Air Force, she works in a NATO-linked communication center that's so high security we weren't permitted to see her at work. But the fact that she's gay isn't a security issue here. In fact, it doesn't seem to be an issue at all.
Did anyone ask you when you went in?
No, nobody.
No questions at all?
No questions at all.
The people you supervise?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
The people you work with?
Yes, everybody knows.
Is it a problem?
No. I think I feel more the pressure of being a woman in the forces than being gay.
Because?
It's a man's world, the forces. So there are difficulties for women in the forces. And that's what I feel, but not being gay.
What would you say to people in the United States who would argue that gay women should not be in the armed forces?
Why? I would like to know why.
They would be subjected, straight women, to unwanted sexual advances.
Sure we do. No. I work with women and I like them and I think they like me too, and they're not afraid of me and I'm not going after them. And no, it's just you do your job, you work, you be with your colleagues, you fix a job, and that's it. And it doesn't matter what color you have, what religion you have, what sexuality you have. It doesn't matter.
As long as you do your job.
As long as you do your job and do it right.
The Dutch, for centuries a seafaring nation, have today only a small navy, but it's one of the most modern naval forces in NATO. On board frigates which patrol the North Atlantic for periods of up to 3 months at a time, men and women serve side by side. With the exception of submarine service, nowhere in the military do people have to live together in more cramped quarters and for longer periods of time than on board ships like these. Lieutenant Commander Gerrit van der Putten is openly gay. He's just been promoted to executive officer of a brand new frigate, the pride of the Dutch fleet, where he's responsible for the discipline and morale of 160 sailors. So far, he says, there's been no sign of a mutiny.
If I would give the order to fire a gun or to fire a torpedo or a missile, I couldn't do it in a gay way. You do it right or you do it wrong, and it's on target or it's not on target. There's no gay way to do that. You give the order and that's it.
What's the reaction of men on your ship to your homosexuality? Do you think they make fun of you, talk about you behind your back?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do, but that doesn't affect their respect towards me as a person. So it doesn't affect my functioning in my warfare job, my combat job.
Have you ever felt that you had to be better at what you do than someone who's straight?
I had to be, I had to try to be perfect, so to build up a credit, well, because of the unseen discrimination, and it is there. And I want to have a credit to say, well, look at me as a professional, I'm doing my job, so what the hell are you talking about? Leave me alone in my sexuality.
But you say there is unseen discrimination.
Oh yes, it's there.
To combat the unseen discrimination, the Dutch have recently launched a new offensive. The Ministry of Defense now publishes information about homosexuality in its recruiting brochures, and it also finances an organization called the Foundation for Homosexuality and the Armed Forces. Headed by Colonel Hotel, the foundation runs a telephone hotline to help gays who feel they have problems in the military, and it organizes teaching programs for all new recruits. Do you think that lifting the ban on gays has worked here?
Of course it did. I think I'm one of the living examples of that. It did work. But lifting the ban and doing nothing after that is not enough. You can order someone to leave gays alone. That will work out only in the same moment as you start telling him why they should leave him alone. Not because it's the law, but because it's a part of normal human behavior.
Colonel Hotel's growing reputation as the campaigning gay colonel doesn't seem to have made him any less popular with his fellow officers or to have affected his future career prospects. You are a lieutenant colonel. Are you as high as you can expect to go in the military?
No. Actually, I expect to go a little bit higher.
Do you foresee the day when there would be a gay general in the Dutch Army?
I think there are gay generals in the Dutch Army, but not only in the Dutch Army. There are gay generals in the American Army as well.
Earlier this summer, President Clinton announced a new policy which will allow gays to serve in the U.S. military, provided they keep their sexual orientation private.
Notice anything unusual about Kellogg's Frosted Bran? Frosted Bran. Contradiction in terms? You see, the fun side of you still wants a sports car. That's the tasty Frosted side. But the sensible side of you is ready for the big wagon. That's the crunchy Bran side. Kellogg's Frosted Bran cereal gives you the best of both. Healthy flakes of bran with a delicious frosting. It's like getting the wagon and keeping the sports car. Frosted keeps you happy, Bran helps keep you healthy. Kellogg's Frosted Bran.
What's got into that cat?
Introducing Frisky Senior, specially formulated for cats 7 years and older. It's easy to digest and has 25% less fat to bring out the frisky in your cat.
What's got into that cat?
Which 800 service keeps sales clicking? Well, if there's a problem, only AT&T guarantees to reroute your calls in less than a second. So you'll never miss a beat. One more reason to choose AT&T 800 service, the best in the business.
Oh, that was wonderful.
I have to see it. If a movie got great reviews, you'd go see it, wouldn't you? If everyone kept talking about a book, you'd probably read it. And if Automobile Magazine called this Toyota Camry the best car built in America, you'd give it a test drive, right? The 1993 Toyota Camry. Everything you've heard is true.
60 Minutes, a CBS News weekly magazine, will continue.
How would you feel if the man who killed your daughter was set free?
Not guilty by reason of insanity.
Would you take the law into your own hands?
I need justice.
Donna Mills,
Isn't there something we can do?
a drama from today's headlines.
Are you crazy, Mommy?
In My Daughter's Name, following Murder, She Wrote. Tonight.
How far would you go to get your stolen car back? You won't believe where I found these cars or how we caught this guy in the act.
Eye to Eye with Connie Chung, Thursday.
Welcome to Dave's World.
Remember we could eat anything we wanted?
Yeah, but when you have kids, you have to take nutrition very seriously. So I made you lunch, didn't I?
Frozen waffles.
And fruit strips. If you don't set a good example, there's no telling what these kids need.
Harry Anderson in Dave's World, Mondays this fall. This is CBS.
I dare you. I dare you to try new big and juicy hot dogs from Oscar Mayer. Just tell me this isn't the most incredible hot dog you ever sink your teeth into. Sure, you've had this kind of flavor at the game, but at home, I don't think so. I know so. Juicy, beefy, bursting with flavor. Tell me these don't make your mouth water. I dare you. I double dare you. I quadruple dare you.
Who, me?
That's my boy.
New big and juicy brand hot dogs from Oscar Mayer. The taste is going over big.
You see me. Glasses that lighten and darken automatically. So had Infinity. That's why the rear view mirror in the new Q45 uses electrochromic technology to lighten and darken automatically for glare during night driving. So you don't have to think about it. Visit your Infinity showroom, and when you're ready to buy a luxury car, you won't have to think about that either.
Lease one of the world's most advanced automobiles, now at a very special rate for a limited time.
Starting Monday, watch Channel 10 News at 11. Then, watch Dave.
If you've not yet left for vacation, you may want to take another look at this story we broadcast last year. Don't leave home with or without it, because there are 500 million of them on the move out there. By the end of the century, there'll be 1 billion of them. They're part of an industry that's now bigger than the oil business. They are us, people, tourists, and what they or we are doing is beginning to destroy the very beauty we're so hell-bent on seeing. Tourism is creating its own abomination. The world has too much money, and believe it or not, the world is too peaceful to stop it. It is the curse of relative peace and relative prosperity over the past 4.5 decades. No place, no space, no metropolis, no hamlet is immune.
Hi, how are you doing? Good to see you.
The Great Wall of China is crumbling under its weight. The Parthenon's face is being scratched to oblivion. Venice sinks and stinks because of it. The most sacred is made profane by sheer numbers. Some people's places of breathtaking beauty become other people's garbage dumps. Above the frost line in the Himalayas, where nothing decays, a new mountain is growing of human feces, which we just as soon not show you. All in the name of tourism and tourist dollars. The Côte d'Azur, it is called, the French Riviera, perhaps the most beautiful coast in the world, has become an anthill of campers, each ant vying for some room to breathe free. These are the public beaches. For privacy, you have to pay. And this is privacy. $40 a day for a piece of turf the size of a burial plot. 50 million people come to France each year, and most of them come here to swim and frolic in an often toxic sea. In Paris, the Bois de Boulogne, the city's marvelous urban forest, looks on a summer's day like a displaced persons camp. And it is in a way. The new, freer Eastern Europe sends out its tired and poor tourists who spend only pennies on the local economy, but add by the hundreds of thousands in competition to glimpse something important. Notre Dame Cathedral and its glorious rose windows, for example. It receives, at the height of the season, 108 visitors a minute. They breathe out 50,000 gallons of carbon dioxide, 650 pounds of vapor. No medieval building was designed to take this kind of beating. Last summer, the priests closed it, allowing packs of 500 in for 20 minutes each. Perhaps they prayed for the hunchback's return for some relief from the onslaught. The central truth of tourism is the central truth of all business. There is nothing not for sale. Tourism brings hard yen and hard dollars, which are recycled to attract more tourists. Thailand is thus a willing participant in raping its own beaches and lagoons, obstructing one and poisoning the other. The quaint villagers struggle with buckets of fresh water. The hotel guzzles and flushes it with abandon. For the lusty but jaded Japanese or European gent, there are sex tours of Bangkok and Manila, where the offerings range from age 13 up, all in the good name of trade balance. Tourism includes big-time pimping. A quick side trip in this Rocky Horror tour to the Sistine Chapel in Rome, where Michelangelo's ceiling required a 10-year restoration. All those bodies and breath created the chapel's own acid rain. And back to France, to the prehistoric caves at Lascaux, site of man's earliest paintings. It became so bad here that the French government closed the caves for good 30 years ago and built Lascaux II, a simulation of the 17,000-year-old drawings. But even this has become so bombarded that authorities limit the crowd to 2,000 a day. After Louis IX put up the wall around the town of Carcassonne in southwest France 600 years ago, every invader was repelled until the late 20th century, when the hordes breached it and laid waste this pretty provincial town. Where there was once a butcher shop, a grocer, perhaps a craftsman of some kind, there is now a junk bazaar. Another bastion fallen to the cheap and the ugly. The throwaway world throws away a little of itself, along with last year's plastic sandals. And you'll find it again in a quick trip across the channel to England, in Stratford-on-Avon, Shakespeare's birthplace. Once a lively market town of 23,000 people that now gets 3.5 million visitors a year. There used to be a family baker right here, and here a tinker, and here a tailor, and here a butcher, and here the old Pizza Hut. The world is being Laura Ashley'd and Benettonized into a crushing sameness. Tourism used to be discovering something completely different. It has become slogging past the familiar. The United Kingdom may be a wonderfully horrible example of what we've been talking about. Is it London or is it Bangkok? The temperature may be the only indicator. As for seeing, for example, the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace, or even Buckingham Palace at all, you might be better served by seeing the simulation of the royal family at Madame Tussauds waxworks, where they are genuinely stiff with ceremony, along with anyone who is anyone. It may be the final gasp of the absurdity of travel, where the phony is as appealing as the reality. Or is it that reality is assumed to be phony?
Some of them think that we're just jetted in the mornings to occupy the houses for the people to look at. If you leave your door open, sometimes they walk in.
Somehow the most decent people away from home become monstrous intruders.
I mean, most of the houses open onto the road. There's very few with a garden in front, so they really are being cheeky by going into the houses. But there it is. It's something we've learned to put up with. We don't.
Mrs. O'Neill lives near Bath, a beautifully preserved Georgian gem of a city that is buckling under the onslaught of what the late, great Noel Coward calls the wrong people.
Why do the wrong people travel, travel, travel when the right people stay back home? What explains this mass mania to leave Pennsylvania and clack about like flocks of geese?
Demanding dry martinis on the Isles of Greece.
They will take a train
or an aeroplane.
Air Vice Marshal Sir John Barraclough and thousands of other residents don't mind opening the city to the rest of the world, but they want the tourists to pay for the privilege.
The polluter must pay, generally speaking. Well, there's a degree of pollution in tourism as well, and people must pay so that money can be fed back to restore what damage they may do. Now, that doesn't cope with the alienation that comes from just having too many people. That's an animal factor of feeling threatened. I mean, if you have too many people around you in too small a space.
Mr. Coward was having a bit of fun at the expense of the economy classes. But the fact is that regardless of class, we've all become the wrong people. Just too many people chasing too few spaces. Garbo's line, "I want to be alone," is our collective and futile cry for tranquility. Short of banning all travel, withdrawing all passports, there is no solution. Just try to slow down a $3 trillion industry. The United States earned $53 billion last year from foreign tourists alone. It's our third largest retail industry after only cars and supermarkets. Americans themselves spent $335 billion on tourism last year. Tourism is quite simply the world's biggest employer. But can the world be saved, preserved from it? There's one company that thinks it can and make a mighty profit in the process. At a cost of more than $4 billion, Disney is building Euro Disney just outside of Paris. It's a city 1/5 the size of Paris itself. It is, after the Channel Tunnel, the largest construction project in Europe. And what it hopes to do is give Europeans the world without leaving home. Apart from the obvious Mickey himself and the understated Sleeping Beauty's castle, it will have all things American, from Main Street, USA, to touches of New England and the Old West. In theory, it's a wonderful idea. Give people the world in their own backyard. But Disney expects the bulk of the visitors to be Japanese, even though they already have their own Disney. So this isn't the answer. The thirst to keep moving seems unquenchable. And the biggest blows to tranquility are yet to come. Only a tiny portion of humanity owns a passport and the means to travel. That's changing. What happens when another 200 or 300 million, another billion people get the wherewithal and the urge.
Let's have chop suey.
Peace, ironically, may be everyone's undoing. We all knew how to liquidate each other. Do we have the brains and space to put up with each other? No. So stay home. An update on Euro Disney. It is so far a small disaster. Europeans are staying away in droves. The company's stock has plummeted. They're losing $6 million a week. In an effort to attract more people, they've broken with the Disney Golden Rule. You can now drink beer and wine in the Magic Kingdom.
This duck is one tough bathroom cleaner. Because Bathroom Duck has a unique formula that tackles tough soap scum and gets rid of grungy dirt. And Bathroom Duck waterproof surfaces to resist dirt buildup, making cleaning easier. Next time, every time. Bathroom Duck. Nothing fights tough bathroom dirt like duck. From S.C. Johnson Wax.
Well, what do you think?
I think I feel safe in that car.
What about the money?
What about the lease?
Yeah, it's a good lease. Can you really see us in a Mercedes?
Definitely.
For details on the win-win lease, visit your authorized Mercedes dealer.
At Anheuser-Busch's SeaWorld parks, the trust between our trainers and whales is built over time. Every year, we introduce over 10 million people to the creatures of the sea. We're hoping to help make what's true of SeaWorld true of the people and animals of the whole world. At Anheuser-Busch, that's our pledge and our promise.
Of all the things around your house that need batteries, there's one thing that needs a good, fresh battery most of all. See your Allstate agent for a free home fire safety brochure. And please, check the battery in your smoke detector often.
In Washington this past week, the government took the top secret label off more than 1,000 boxes containing information on the assassination of President John Kennedy. Last year, when Oliver Stone's controversial film JFK was released, Andy Rooney had a few theories of his own. Not about who killed President Kennedy, but about people who make movies about it.
I saw the movie JFK the other night. I did doze off once or twice during the movie, but as I understand it, President Kennedy's assassination was a conspiracy among the CIA, President Lyndon Johnson, the FBI, the Secret Service, Mother Teresa, and the military-industrial complex making weapons for the war in Vietnam. 60 Minutes has obtained actual photographs of the man who claims to have made this movie. His name is Oliver Stone. He tries to prove the conspiracy theory that President Kennedy could not have been shot by just one man. There's been a rumor going around for several weeks now that this movie could not have been made by one man. I agree. For one thing, it's too long to have been made by one man. The movie's so long that just watching it is a job for more than one person. The hero of the movie is a New Orleans lawyer and district attorney named Jim Garrison. This is Kevin Costner, the actor who plays Jim Garrison. This is the real Jim Garrison. The real Jim Garrison also has a part in the movie, but apparently the casting director didn't think he looked honest enough to play himself, so he plays the part of Chief Justice Earl Warren. This is the real Chief Justice Earl Warren. He doesn't have a part in the movie. Jim Garrison is the hero of the movie because the movie was taken from a book that Jim Garrison wrote. No one ever writes a book in which he's the bad guy. 60 Minutes has also obtained an actual copy of that book. This is an actual simulated autograph by the author. 60 Minutes now has evidence that the man using the name Oliver Stone may actually be Orson Welles, who faked his own death in 1985 and is now alive and well, living in a house called Rosebud on Malibu Beach. For proof, we have an actual aerial photograph of Malibu Beach. We believe that to be Orson Welles there on the beach. Note the similarity of Orson Welles to the man claiming to be Oliver Stone. Oliver Stone is a great movie maker, there's no question of that, but this movie is nonsense put together with devious skill. See the movie, but remember, it's just a movie. It's not history. If you want the real story, what you have to do is read a good newspaper.
I'm Mike Wallace. We'll be back next week with another edition of 60 Minutes.
Here's your orange juice. You wait here, and I'll go get your breakfast.
100% pure Florida orange juice. It makes you feel so good.
How'd you do that?
If 800 service is how you fish for sales, you should know AT&T's nearest competitor is twice as likely to have a network outage. When that happens, you might not get as many bites. One of the 800 reasons to choose AT&T 800 service, the best in the business.
This is the office where our Ford truck engineers get a lot of work done. Because by knowing firsthand how a full-size pickup ought to work, they can make it work even better. That's why the Ford F-Series now has a new standard airbag, standard anti-lock brakes, and constant ideas to make tough even tougher. More proof that at Ford we're looking ahead and looking to stay ahead. Ford F-Series, the #1 selling truck, is built Ford tough.
Exactly how many colors of True Test paint do we offer? Let's just say taking a wrong turn in our factory would be a chameleon's worst nightmare. True Test paints over 1,000 colors at true value.
Coastal residents, get ready for the worst as Hurricane Emily bears down on the East Coast. We will have complete coverage.
Tomorrow on CBS This Morning with Harry Smith and Paula Zahn. Security guards make you feel safe? That could be a big mistake. Find out why some of them are such risky business. Eye on America on the CBS Evening News tomorrow. Everyone's writing the big one to Big Wave Dave.
How do you describe the best sex you've ever had? Medium to poor?
An all-new Big Wave Dave, Monday.
The hardest thing about following your dreams...
We're gonna be cowboys.
...is convincing your family that it's a good idea.
What time?
A rattler.
A rattler.
A new family adventure is coming to CBS.
Are you getting a divorce, Mom?
No, Duke. I'm getting a truck.
Hearts of the West, Saturdays this fall.
He raped and killed her daughter, but the system set him free. What would you do if it was your daughter and the law was on his side? Donna Mills and Lee Grant star in a story about one woman's vengeance. In My Daughter's Name, right after Murder, She Wrote, which is next.
Do you foresee the day when there would be a gay general in the Dutch Army?
I think there are gay generals in the Dutch Army, but not only in the Dutch Army. There are gay generals in the American Army as well.
For a transcript of this program, send $5 to Burrell's Transcripts, Box 7, Livingston, New Jersey, 07039. And to purchase video cassettes of tonight's stories, call 1-800-848-3256.
He was convicted of killing this woman. Now it's his turn. Death by Midnight on 48 Hours Wednesday.
It's Mitch again on line 1.
Hi, Mitch. Sorry I've been so busy.
Busy waiting for him to call.
I just wondered when you wanted to get together.
For the bookshelves?
Well, we could start with the bookshelves.
Faye Dunaway, Robert Urich. It had to be you.
The printer's on line 5. You take the printer. I'd rather have the carpenter.
Time to hold.
This is CBS.
$1993 Cadillac Lincoln Showroom Closeout. Every Cadillac and Lincoln in Kerbeck's giant 50-car showroom is drastically reduced to under $16,990. 50 late model Cadillacs and Lincolns. All the most popular models and colors. None held back. Cadillac Eldorados, Sevilles, Coupes and Sedan DeVilles, Bromes, Fleetwoods, Lincoln Town Cars, Continentals, Marks, all drastically reduced to under $16,990 at FC Kerbeck.
House. And on Sports Sunday, sweet revenge for the Phillies. Bill Perry has the highlights. That's all coming up next on the 10 o'clock news.
Watch for the multi-million-dollar jackpot drawing for Powerball, Wednesdays and Saturdays at 10:59 p.m. on Fox 29.
From Hollywood Pictures, $1 million was the last thing Joey Coyle expected to find. Giving it back is the last thing he intends to do.
Finders keepers.
Hollywood Pictures presents the true story of a guy just trying to hold on to the American dream.
Did we steal it from anybody? No. Police! Open the door! Did we hurt anybody? No. Are we giving it back? Hell no!
John Cusack, Money for Nothing, rated R. Starts Friday, September 10th at a theater near you.
When you choose a family car, you put all your eggs in one basket. So, when it came to safety engineering, from standard dual airbags to side impact protection, Mitsubishi did the same thing. Introducing the all-new 1994 Mitsubishi Galant with some of the most comprehensive safety engineering of any car in its class. The Galant from Mitsubishi, the new thinking in automobiles.
Yo, I'm in the house, because that's what the TV is.
Sinbad is coming to Fox.
And now, the Delaware Valley's only primetime news hour, honored by the Associated Press as the best newscast in Pennsylvania, the 10 o'clock news.
This is Hurricane Emily. It grows with every hour as it churns toward the East Coast. People from the Carolinas north to New England have reason for concern tonight. Where and when will Emily hit? And how bad will this hurricane be? Good evening, everyone. I'm Rich Noonan.
And I'm Tracy Matisak. Here's what's happening. It is the calm before the hurricane in the Carolinas tonight. Hurricane Emily is hurtling toward land, packing 80-mile-an-hour winds. Emily is now roughly 400 miles southeast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane watch from South Carolina all the way up to the Delaware-Maryland line. Emily is expected to hit land somewhere along that stretch Tuesday. Bill Elias will have more on the storm in a couple of minutes. We begin our coverage in South Carolina, where memories of the last big storm have people nervous. Joe Oliver reports.
All along the East Coast, people prepared for the worst.
I have 4 gallons of distilled water, and I have flashlights, batteries, and some unperishable foods.
Supermarkets and building supply stores from Georgia to North Carolina were jam-packed as people stocked up on water, canned goods, batteries, and plywood.
We've got water, charcoal, lighter fluid, lamp oil, candles.
Got some candles and water and some canned goods, just stocking up, you know.
In Charleston, South Carolina, emergency management officials remain on standby. Even though the storm is expected to miss the historic city, people living here learned their lesson 4 years ago when Hurricane Hugo slammed into the coast.
What we're having to realize is that with the history and the inaccuracy of forecast tracks, you've got a 90% chance that the 72-hour forecast is incorrect at this point. It's still too early, so there's a lot of uncertainties as to how the storm may be steered.
We're going to be ready. We were ready before. This community did such a wonderful job in preparation and evacuation and all of that.
But not everybody plans to evacuate should Emily come their way. Dr. Joe Sam Palmer rode out Hurricane Hugo in his 19th century home along Charleston's famous Battery and says he'd do it again.
It doesn't faze me. It doesn't faze me.
Others aren't taking any chances as they wait for Emily to make her next move.
My preparations is somebody else better have water and food because I'm not going to be here. If it gets close, I'm gone. I'm going to board up my house and leave.
But until forecasters know where Emily will hit for sure, all anyone can do is prepare and wait. Joe Oliver and reporting.
Evacuations have already begun as residents of the mid-Atlantic coast await the arrival of Emily. On the Outer Banks of North Carolina, 2,500 people have been ordered inland. More evacuations will begin tomorrow morning. Well, with each passing hour, Hurricane Emily becomes more of a factor in the forecast for the Delaware Valley. Bill Elias has been monitoring the storm. He joins us now with the latest details. Bill?
Rich, Emily still is moving in a northwesterly direction, and we are still expecting it to veer a little bit more off towards the west and move into the Gulf Stream, and thus intensifying over the next couple of days. Now, either way, we do expect to see a lot of this moisture streaming up into the Delaware Valley because of a couple of reasons. We have a front to our west that is going to kind of scoop up some of that moisture, and it looks like now, later in the day on Tuesday, Wednesday, and even Thursday, we're in for possibly some very heavy rains in the Delaware Valley. Now, the current position of Emily still, as you mentioned, about 400 miles off the coast of Cape Hatteras, which is located right there, but we're still packing winds of at about 80 miles per hour, and we do expect to see strengthening within the next couple of days. And there you have the latest coordinates for you folks who like to track those, and central pressure still continues to fall at 28.82. I'll have more on Emily a little bit later on in the week's forecast coming up. Tracy?
All right, Bill, thank you. If the Delaware Valley should get more than the anticipated rain from Hurricane Emily, the Red Cross is prepared. As Rich Maneri reports, volunteers are already mobilizing, just in case.
Okay, Walter, we have 2 cans of coffee.
Red Cross volunteers are doing what they've been trained to do, prepare for disaster. An emergency response vehicle like this, capable of feeding hundreds, is being packed up in Center City. It will soon head to the Carolinas, where Hurricane Emily is taking aim.
I also need you to check on drink mixes, coffee, tea.
But most of the effort at the Philadelphia chapter of the Red Cross is being concentrated in the Delaware Valley and on what might happen here if Emily arrives.
Okay, well, these are disaster services nursing kits. They're just your basic medical supplies and tongue depressors, Q-tips, splint.
So if we have to open shelters, start feeding operations, or assess damage, whether it's in the Delaware Valley, in the state of Delaware, and New Jersey, we'll be ready to move quickly this upcoming week.
Hurricane Emily doesn't come at the best time for the Red Cross. The Philadelphia chapter has already spent a lot of its resources helping flood victims in the Midwest. Now dozens of volunteers will be asked to change direction.
This chapter itself set 45 volunteers away. Most of these people are volunteers. Their employer will let them take off maybe once a year. So we're in a sort of a iffy situation. Will our volunteers be able to get off for a long period of time should something happen here?
The Red Cross not only needs people, but money. Donations have been steady, but the past year has been an expensive one. Hurricane Andrew cost the National Red Cross $86 million. Flooding in the Midwest this summer has so far totaled about $20 million. But in Philadelphia, volunteers can only hope for more help and for the best while preparing for the worst. In Center City, Rich Maneri, the 10 o'clock news.
Attorneys for convicted killer Kenneth DeShields have filed 2 more appeals in an attempt to stay his execution scheduled for Tuesday. Delaware attorney Kevin Howard says the defense has learned that a deputy state prosecutor who has fought previous appeals once defended DeShields in court. Howard says that is a conflict of interest and is grounds for a stay of execution.
Philadelphia police are looking for the killer or killers of a 20-year-old man who was shot in the head this evening as he sat in his car. It happened on North Reese Street in the Hunting Park section of the city. Police say someone opened fire on the man with a semi-automatic weapon. The victim's vehicle was hit with at least 4 bullets. One of them hit him in the head. Police are not yet releasing the man's name. No arrests have been made. In West Philadelphia, police search for the killer of a Korean store owner shot during a robbery attempt yesterday afternoon. 45-year-old Chong Lee was gunned down after the killer walked into a store on Holly Street and demanded money. Today, police found a car that fit the description of the getaway car, but police are not sure if the vehicle is the same one used in the killing.
A South Philadelphia playground once riddled with violence is now a model for other neighborhoods. As Farland Chang reports, the community owes it all to one man who believed he could make a difference.
Kids who play basketball getting it first.
38-year-old Ed Neesmith is back home in South Philadelphia on Sachs Playground at 4th and Washington, close to where he grew up. He left the comfort of the main line after he heard that his old playground was the scene of a drug-related murder involving the Junior Black Mafia.
People who got successful and key positions need to come back and help the community. And the people in the community need to come out.
After the JBM shooting, many young people in this neighborhood feared coming to this playground. Since Ed Neesmith took over, there have been no serious crimes, and police describe this center as a model for other neighborhoods in the city.
Cheers to Eddie. Eddie's really doing a great job. He makes our job a whole lot easier.
Who's got him? Who's got him?
Through a books and basketball program all summer long, Neesmith has given young people a way to have fun, to learn from tutors, and to overcome a climate of drugs and poverty. Today's end of the summer celebration is all about neighborhood pride and anti-violence.
Peace off the street. What they can learn at this playground, key number one is discipline. As you see, this playground is kept clean because the kids keep it clean. They break a bottle, you will not participate in the activity. You act up, you will not go in the pool.
Neesmith got the city to keep the pool open throughout the summer, not just for a few weeks. He has contacts because he works for Councilman Joe Vignola. But Neesmith says most of the money for this center comes from either his own pocket or from volunteers. He also gets help from leaders in the church and other ethnic groups in the neighborhood. But he says it's not enough. So one day, he plans to run for office.
It costs $44,000 to keep a kid in a youth detention center. Why you can't get people in the community some of that funding and keep the kids out?
He encouraged me going to school and get me off the streets, hanging with the bad crowds, and coming over the playground, helping out people.
Good play, Yellow. Good play, Yellow.
There's still a lot of work ahead, but Neesmith sees fewer kids shooting at each other because they now have goals for which to shoot. In South Philadelphia, Farland Chang, the 10 o'clock news.
Coming up tonight, a possible break in the Middle East peace talks.
More information about the apparent extortion attempt against Michael Jackson. And later, fire lights up the night in the City of Lights,
in Camden. Those stories, plus a look ahead at the Labor Day weekend AccuWeather forecast, coming up next on Action News.
Ross announces new markdowns. Save 50 to 65% on back-to-school.
They represent more than 14,000 people waiting for public housing protesters who convened in Center City today to demand action from the Philadelphia Housing Authority. The agency says it knows that problems exist and it's trying to revamp itself to address them. Steve Coleman has more.
Outside PHA headquarters, voices were raised against what protesters say has been the history of inaction. And now they want some answers and a stake in charting the future of the Housing Authority.
We want to be able to have the opportunity to have an input in the decision-making of PHA.
Upstairs, the board was getting down to business, which today meant fielding questions from angry tenants, would-be tenants of the city's housing projects.
We have been living in facilities that are designed for temporary emergency housing for as long as 18 months.
Not for nothing is this called the most embattled public housing authority in the country, an emerging partnership among the federal government, the city of Philadelphia, and the PHA hopes to change that. Still today, board members could do little more than listen and express concern.
We are not insensitive to your concern, and we're not ignorant of it either.
The so-called new and improved board will include Executive Director John White Jr., as well as Mayor Ed Rendell and City Council President John Street. The board says it will embark on a 24-month planning period to address issues of vacancy, facilities, and security.
These shelter residents have heard all of this before, so it's going to take some action to convince them.
In fact, protesters presented a bill to the board on behalf of taxpayers for the millions of dollars they say it costs to house homeless people who could be living in public housing.
It is this public housing project that remains one of the sore points in the problems besetting the PHA. Here at the Richard Allen Homes, there are 600 vacant units which the protesters say should be made available immediately, as many of them have been on waiting lists for several months. But the PHA says its hands are tied and that these homes are simply not fit to live in.
But the board says it does intend to put some 1,000 vacant units back online over the next 1.5 to 2 years. Committing to provide what even the youngest protesters here say is vital to the future of Philadelphia.
I want houses!
In Center City, Steve Coleman, the 10 o'clock news.
After 2 years of extensive reconstruction, SEPTA is showing off its new regional railroad. Now, SEPTA faces a challenge that might be even bigger, bringing back its old riders and winning over new ones. Farland Chang reports.
After a century of use and then decay, SEPTA finally revamped its regional rail line that connects the northern suburbs to Center City. That was then, this is now.
All aboard!
With that, SEPTA officials showed the news media its new regional railway. Normal service will begin on Sunday.
It's nice and smooth. It's usually a little shaky with the welded rail. It's a lot better.
SEPTA says it should be safer for riders, too, now that this aging 4.5-mile stretch of rail has been overhauled with a smoother track.
They're going to notice their coffee's not going to be spilled on their laps when they're riding. And that's going to be a big improvement.
The Railworks project cost about $265 million of federal money. That's $90 million below budget, thanks to competitive bidding during the recession. The passengers who will benefit are the ones who have suffered through rail shutdowns. 6 lines were partially or completely shut down. The R2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
The northern end of SEPTA's rail system normally serves about 17,500 customers. But during the past 2 years of construction, SEPTA has lost about 10% of those customers. It will not be easy to win them back.
I think that it's going to be difficult to move people out of their cars, but I don't believe that it's an impossible job.
With help from an upcoming media blitz, SEPTA will promise more reliable and, in some cases, faster service. SEPTA says there will be no more sagging signal and power cables in the summer, no more freezing switches in the winter, and no more dangerous construction near people's homes. SEPTA has also built a new rail station serving Temple University, and on many lines, riders should find new lighting, more parking, and expanded rail service.
What's at stake here is the future of the ridership of our suburban lines and the future of mass transit.
SEPTA has been losing riders and revenue in recent years. It is hoping this new project will help place it back on the right track. In North Philadelphia, Farland Chang, the 10 o'clock news.
Coming up, a Delaware Valley company takes on the big-time computer data service.
Those stories, the Labor Day weekend AccuWeather forecast, and much more coming up next on Action News.
The world's top husband and wife spy team have just added a junior partner.
See mommy picking the big lock? When you're a big girl, she'll teach you how to pick locks.
Undercover Blues, rated PG-13. Starts Friday, September 10th at theaters everywhere.
Weapons like these have one purpose: to kill people, often children, in the crossfire. New Jersey Democrats had the courage to ban these weapons and help protect New Jersey. Now the NRA is coming here to wage war against these Democrats and overturn the gun ban. Don't let it happen. Stand up for the Democrats who stood up for you. Defeat the NRA.
Unclaimed freight. It's the biggest name brand liquidation ever. Unclaimed freight bought truckloads from America's best manufacturers. Broyhill, Best, Simmons, Lane. Incredible deals on $188 sofas. A huge Broyhill dining room close-up. Amazing. Just $488. $488? Truckloads of Simmons hide-a-beds. Department store overstocks at $399. $399? Way below their cost. Hundreds of dollars below Levitt and Siemens guaranteed. Unclaimed freight.
An Action News Sports Eagles season preview, Saturday night at 7:30. Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Dave Frankel, Monica Malpass, and Robin Garrison.
Good afternoon. Robin's off. Rob Jennings joins us this noon. In the news, surgeons in Baltimore separate a set of conjoined twins.
A police car is involved in a fatal car accident, and low gas prices will mean heavy travel on the roadways this holiday weekend.
But the big story on Action News this noon is President Clinton stopping in Delaware this morning to visit and praise an innovative high school program. He was at Sussex County Airport, where students in the county's high school aviation program got to meet him. The program teaches the students about aviation careers, including piloting airplanes. Mr. Clinton said that college is not for every young American, but that doesn't mean every young American shouldn't have a chance to continue school in some way after high school.
we have to face the fact that we, while we still have the best system of higher education in the world, are the only advanced country without a system to guarantee that every student that doesn't go on to a four-year college institution has the opportunity to be in this program or one like it that we're celebrating here today.
The president's visit to this program in Delaware was part of his campaign for a national apprenticeship program to provide alternate education paths for teenagers. The father of conjoined twin Angela Lakeberg has a court appearance in Indiana at this hour. Kenneth Lakeberg is facing a hearing for violating his probation. Lakeberg has had problems with drugs and alcohol. The probation stems from an incident last Christmas Eve where he's accused of stabbing a relative in the hand during a drunken fight. He could get a jail term or an extended probation this time around. As for little Angela Lakeberg, who survived the operation that killed her twin, she's still holding her own. She remains in critical but stable condition this noon at Children's Hospital.
And it looks like Ken Lakeberg could be in the middle of even more controversy this noon. Action News has learned that while on his way to Indiana, Lakeberg spent a night living it up in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Exotic dancers at this club in Altoona say a man identifying himself as Lakeberg spent much of Wednesday night here tipping big and bragging.
Actually, for about one set, he tipped me about $60 to $70. And he was having a good time drinking. He was trying to get with other girls, but none of them would leave with him.
The Econo Lodge in Altoona confirms that someone signing in as Lakeberg did spend the night there. Just over a week ago, you'll remember, Lakeberg confessed to spending about $1,000 of money donated for his daughter's care on a cocaine binge. At the time, he vowed to change his ways and get help.
Well, while baby Angela Lakeberg continues to recover at Children's Hospital, another set of conjoined twins has now been separated. Doctors at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore operated on 4-day-old twins yesterday. The girls were joined at the sternum. They did not share any organs. Surgeons say both girls are doing well. They're expected to survive. For the time being, the parents of this set of twins has asked to remain anonymous. A Norristown man is headed to court today to face charges that he killed the toddler son of his live-in girlfriend. 27-year-old London Wells is charged with third-degree murder and other offenses in connection with the incident early last month. 2-year-old Joshua Johnson died of blows to his head and body. Police say Wells and the child's mother brought him to a hospital emergency ward, but little Joshua died shortly thereafter. Wells is scheduled for a preliminary hearing today on the murder charges.
Freedom lasted only a day for one of 3 convicts who escaped Wednesday night. Anthony Kidd and 2 others got out through a fence at the Mercer County Correctional Facility. Kidd was recaptured last night by Trenton police and is back behind bars in solitary confinement. He and the 2 others were doing time on drug convictions. The other 2 are still on the run. Police in State College, Pennsylvania are looking for a man who fired several shots at a construction worker this morning. Officials say the gunman, dressed in military fatigues, drove up to a construction site, told the workers to get out, and opened fire. He started shooting, but nobody was wounded. The gunman then ran into a wooded area where police are still trying to track him down. A pre-dawn car crash has claimed a life and sent 2 more people to the hospital. A subcompact collided with a police car at 38th and Walnut this morning. One of the people in the small car died a few minutes later. The other person was hospitalized at U of PA. Police officer Beverly Miner of the 18th District is expected to be released from Jefferson Hospital later today.
They're like in France. Nobody likes the same thing. So how come so many people love Volkswagen? Germany, France, England, Sweden, Finland, Japan. The new Golf is the best-selling car in the world. The new Jet is loved everywhere. You know, maybe people aren't that different after all. The new Volkswagens, the most loved cars in the world.
People are hurting terribly. Children are hurting. Senior citizens are hurting.
New Jersey's Democrat politicians gave us billions in higher state taxes.
How is a family like us supposed to go on?
Tax, tax, tax. That's all they know.
Tax and spend, the Democrats' motto.
Now New Jersey's lost 286,000 jobs.
My son has lost his job. Had one under the Republicans, but not under the Democrats. It doesn't look like much of a future for her if it keeps going the way it is.
Vote Republican to clean up the mess. An Action News Sports Eagles season preview Saturday night at 7:30.
From ABC, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Sitting in tonight, Renee Poussaint.
Good evening. In half a dozen capitals in the Middle East and in Europe today, there are tantalizing hints that an historic agreement between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization is almost within reach. In Jerusalem, Israel's Prime Minister Rabin says, "I am ready for a painful compromise." In Paris, his Foreign Minister Shimon Peres says, "I am convinced we will reach it." While in Tunis, the PLO's Yasser Arafat is trying for the second day to convince members of his own movement to follow his lead. Our first report is from ABC's Dean Reynolds.
In this mosque today, signs urge the Palestinian faithful to fight the Israeli PLO plan with blood. The mosques are strongholds of Muslim fundamentalists who again today showed their commitment to the struggle against the Israeli army. But the far more important struggle of the day was underway in Tunis, where Yasser Arafat was trying to win support for the plan from his own Fatah faction of the PLO. Sources say acceptance of self-rule for Palestinians under occupation is close, but is being delayed in a search for compromise on the separate issue of Israel-PLO recognition. Israel wants the PLO to amend its charter, which now calls for destruction of the Jewish state. The PLO says the charter is already null and void. The Palestinians want Israel to recognize Arafat as the president of Palestine, not simply chairman of the PLO. The Israelis object because that would imply Palestinian statehood. One Arafat aide remained confident that the problems will be ironed out.
I think that the majority of the leadership of Fatah will support the agreement and there will be a happy end for this meeting.
But it would be no happy ending for the Israeli right-wing parties. They were meeting today in Tel Aviv seeking a way to stop the understanding from taking effect. Their strategy right now is fear. They claim giving Palestinians self-rule in the areas where Jewish settlers also live would produce a bloodbath that would, as one opposition leader put it, make the Nazi concentration camps look like rest homes. But the negotiating between Israel and the PLO is continuing nonetheless. And today in France, Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres indicated the contacts would eventually yield results that would pave the way for a region-wide settlement. We're very close to total peace, said Mr. Peres, because none of the parties, not the Arab side nor the Israelis, have an alternative. Dean Reynolds, ABC News, Tel Aviv.
There are also clear signs today of another track to these negotiations, this one between Israel and one of its four neighbors, Syria. No breakthroughs yet, but some progress. Here's ABC's John McQuethy.
Though there continue to be many voices of dissent today in Jordan and Lebanon, the breakthrough between Israel and the PLO is having a positive effect on negotiations between Israel and Syria, one-time bitter enemies.
If we are to judge by what we have seen this week in the negotiations that I personally participate in, that is to say the negotiations with the Syrians, then we could be encouraged.
That's the Israeli view. No formal word from Syria's leader, Hafez al-Assad, but there was today an unusual commentary on Syria's state-controlled radio. It not only praised the way Israel was negotiating, but said the peace talks held out the hope of, quote, a firm, solid, real, honorable, just, and comprehensive peace agreement. American officials admit they have been left out of the secret talks between Israel and the PLO, but Secretary Christopher Aid say is trying to help by lining up support for the breakthrough agreement among Arab leaders, some of whom did not like being surprised by the Palestinians. The U.S. is especially pressing the leadership of Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon to go for breakthroughs of their own with Israel.
But for now, until Israel and the PLO can find a way to actually sign the agreement they have made, American officials say there is little they can do but continue working the phones and wait. John McQuethy, ABC News, the State Department.
When we come back, the Los Angeles riots trial, the view from above. At the U.S. Open, a great young tennis player trying to keep her father out of her mind. And this Friday, our Person of the Week, taking a chance on peace.
Ever wonder what happens to your initial investment when you buy certain mutual funds through a broker and pay front-end fees? Well, by the time they charge you sales loads and account fees, it's actually costing you hundreds of dollars before you start. But now there's a better way. At Charles Schwab, you can choose from 200 well-known no-load mutual funds with proven track records.
You pay no loads and no transaction fees.
So if you want all of your money to work for you,
maybe it's time to come to Schwab.
I'm on my way to Atlanta, Georgia, to see what makes Ace the place.
It's got to be the values, John.
Like Ace All-Purpose Duct Tape 60-yard roll, only $2.77, and Ace 50-year 100% silicone sealant, $1.99 each.
Hey, Ace is America's place for better value.
At the Los Angeles riot trial, a person who had one of the clearest views as the truck driver Reginald Denny was severely beaten took the stand today. He pointed the finger at both men who are charged with trying to murder Denny. ABC's Brian Rooney is in L.A.
The witness was Bob Turr, a well-known helicopter reporter in Los Angeles. His chopper circled for 2 hours while a camera operated by his wife captured these pictures of assaults on Reginald Denny and other victims. Turr said that at 70 to 100 feet above Florence and Normandy, using binoculars and just his eyes, he could see faces, and he said Henry Watson's was one of them.
Were you able to see Mr. Watson's face clearly?
Yes, ma'am.
At the time that you made this observation, were you using the binoculars?
Yes, ma'am.
Turr said he recognized Watson as one of the people who attacked a small economy car and its driver, and that Watson was the man who kicked truck driver Larry Tarvin.
Mr. Watson, using his right leg, delivered a blow to the side of Mr. Tarvin's head.
He also identified Henry Watson as the man who held down Reginald Denny while he was attacked. Then Turr identified Damian Williams as the man seen on videotape hurling a brick into Reginald Denny's head.
Are you absolutely certain that this man in court, defendant Williams, is the person that threw the brick into Reginald Denny's head?
There's no doubt.
That was too much for Williams' mother, who taunted Turr as he left court for a break.
Liar, 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 liar.
Brian Rooney, ABC News, Los Angeles.
In Florida today, that black tourist who was abducted and set on fire last New Year's Day told a jury what he remembers of the attack. He said he is certain the 2 white men on trial are the ones who did it, and said, quote, "I heard a noise like when you light a fire. I felt this tremendous heat, and the 2 men told me, now you're going to die, nigger." Still in Florida, there has been another huge cocaine seizure. What makes it so unusual is not the amount, although it was very large, but the technique. This cocaine came from a drug cartel with quite an imagination. Here's ABC's Mark Prada.
Agents found the nearly 6 tons of Colombian cocaine hidden in more than 300 boxes of coffee. The cocaine was packed into thousands of little coffee bags, then mixed with real coffee bags and smuggled to this company in Miami.
The top layer is actually coffee. Underneath the top layer was 70 packages, 8 ounces each of the cocaine.
Agents say the load came from Cali, Colombia, where the world's largest cocaine cartel, headed by Gilberto and Miguel Rodriguez Orihuela, is known for its ingenious smuggling methods. In December of 1991, agents seized more than 16 tons of the cartel's cocaine hidden in cement fence posts. In April of last year, they found more than 7 tons of cocaine hidden in a shipment of frozen broccoli. Officials say the traffickers' computer records found during those earlier seizures led them to uncover the coffee scheme.
Although cocaine trafficking is not the political issue and the headline it was a few years ago, it is still a huge enterprise, and the profits involved give the traffickers ample reason to be inventive. Mark Potter, ABC News, Miami.
We have a story about gambling tonight and the largest casino in the Western Hemisphere. It is not in Las Vegas or Atlantic City. It's in Ledyard, Connecticut, where the Meshanticut Pequot Indian tribe opened a brand new wing today to an enormous casino that is making them very rich and some of their neighbors very angry. Here's ABC's Jim Hickey.
When the tribe opened the new wing with colorful ceremony, they doubled their already hugely successful gambling business. Last month, they took in $26 million from slot machines alone. Total annual revenues are expected to go as high as $1 billion.
We create jobs, opportunity,
and we've heightened the interest in tourism in southeast Connecticut.
With the new construction, the tribe plans to have 8,200 workers by the end of the year, becoming one of Connecticut's largest employers. Still, there is trouble.
The tribe has plans for even greater expansion. They have applied to the federal government to add more land to the reservation. Land which, to the anger of many residents in nearby towns, would be tax-free to the Indians.
It's all right, boy.
Bill and Diane Gear are fourth-generation farmers adjacent to the reservation. They say federal law, which allows tribes to acquire tax-free land, is unfair.
They have the monetary capacity to buy up, to gobble up, to annex, to take our town away from us.
The tribe wants to purchase the nearby Dawley farm. Concerned about losing control of the land, townspeople voted to buy it, but for millions less than the tribe's offer. Still, Arthur Dawley agreed to sell.
I'm sure if the tribe got it, they would probably put in a parking lot for 8,000 or 10,000 cars.
Bruce Kirchner, a tribe member and casino vice president, said the towns have been offered millions in compensation. For Indians, he says, there is a larger issue.
We need a secure land base in order to pass that on to our children. We don't want to ever be in a position again where we're put out or where we have nothing.
The Indians say they are getting back some of what was taken from them generations ago, and for the first time, they have the means to do it. Jim Hickey, ABC News, on the Meshanticut Pequot Indian Reservation.
A glimpse today of the Clintons' taste in office furnishings. Reporters got a first look at the redecorated Oval Office. A lot brighter than in the Bush years. The cream-colored sofas now have red stripes, and gone is the pale rug, replaced by a navy blue carpet with the presidential seal woven into it. Some very mixed signals on the economy today. The unemployment rate went down last month to 6.7%, the lowest level in 2 years. But as good as the overall numbers were, a separate survey shows that the number of non-farm jobs, especially those in manufacturing, went down by 39,000. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrials gained more than 7 points to close at 3633. The trading was moderate. For the week, stocks lost about 6 points. When we come back, China's Olympic dreams.
They're coming, the Color Tile trucks with more carpet, more ceramic, more vinyl for Color Tile's first time ever in-store warehouse sale. 40, 50, 60% off. DuPont Masterlight. No payment, no interest for 6 months. Sheet vinyl, vinyl tile, warehouse priced. Ceramic, floor and wall, warehouse priced. Wood floors, warehouse priced. Mini blinds, buy one, get 4 free. Color Tile's in-store warehouse sale. 40, 50, 60% off. You could save hundreds of dollars. Act now.
Why are these people smiling? They've got Polydin Infopartials with the power to clean the pearly part and the metal part in just 5 minutes. So get Polydin Infopartials, 'cause hey, it's good looking on almost everybody.
Oh, my back hurts and I had a game this afternoon. So I'm taking Advil. I know I'll feel better soon. More doctors recommend Advil by name to relieve backaches than any other brand. And you know, just one Advil is as effective relieving pain as 2 regular-strength Tylenol. With Advil, there's no reason to let a sore back keep me from swinging. So now I can think about my game instead of my back. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
You wouldn't take your $1,200 evening gown to a laundromat, so why take your GM vehicle to anyone other than your GM dealer? No one else has the training and genuine GM parts to protect your investment. So when you need service, come back to your GM dealer.
In Japan today, the third typhoon to hit that country in a month. Typhoon Yancy lashed southern Japan with torrential rains driven by 100-mile-an-hour winds. At least 2 people are dead. Hundreds of homes and businesses have been destroyed. Many people need to be evacuated, but rescue workers have not been...
Amid new allegations and the taunting of his own relatives. Plus, Bill Perry has details of a trade that will send Sixer Hersey Hawkins to Charlotte. And Bill Elias has the all-important Labor Day weekend weather forecast. The 10 o'clock news is next.
I'm an old-fashioned guy. I believe in giving people more for their money. So not only is everything on Wendy's Super Value menu 99 cents each, but on our Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, you get 2 full strips of bacon. Our Biggie fries are big, like our baked potato. Plus now a Wendy's quarter-pound single combo with biggie fries and a 20-ounce drink at just $2.99. At Wendy's, you don't pay more, you just get more. Every day. And that's the truth.
The 99-cent super value menu and $2.99 single combo only at Wendy's.
I'm so bad, that's why I'm glad you're so good. If you're bad about loving rich desserts, here's good news. Introducing Smart Style from Mrs. Smith's. Sinfully rich, yet they're made with sensible ingredients that can still be part of a smart way to eat. New Smart Style desserts. Go ahead, live well, eat well, have dessert. I'm so bad, that's why I'm glad you're so good. Thanks, Mrs. Smith.
Ross announces new markdowns. Save 50 to 65% on back-to-school fashions. Only at Ross. Now.
When Riker confronts his own double, jealousy could turn them into bitter rivals on Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Saturday at 6 on Fox 29. And now, the Delaware Valley's only primetime news hour, honored by the Associated Press as the best newscast in Pennsylvania. The 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone. Jill and Lee have the night off. I'm Jacqueline Bolden.
And I'm Rich Noonan. Here's what's happening tonight. The Labor Day weekend is underway, but some businesses along the boardwalk in Wildwood, New Jersey will be left out. Investigators say an arsonist may have set 4 fires overnight. One part of the boardwalk was hard hit. Rich Maneri has the story.
Oh, we got flames!
Firefighters were still putting out small hot spots about 4 hours after controlling a big fire that destroyed 3 businesses on Wildwood's boardwalk. Investigators believe it started when an arsonist lit some trash on fire in a T-shirt shop, a fact passing vacationers found hard to accept.
Oh, I think it's just devastating. I can't believe that people would do something like this.
I think it's really terrible because it's the second time this summer that we had fires on the boardwalk. A lot of tragedy.
Before the T-shirt shop and 2 arcades went up in flames, there were 3 other minor fires in Wildwood this morning that firefighters say were deliberately set, including one here at Mac's Pizza. Joseph Mack says someone kicked in his basement door and started a fire.
I have no idea.
Doesn't look like anything was taken into place.
It could be just a firebug, you know, somebody that likes to set fires or something, you know. I have no idea.
Mac's restaurant sits just up the block from the scene of the major fire. Firefighters say there's a good chance both were the work of the same person.
There's always a connection, maybe, possibility of connection between whoever started that fire, which we're certain was started intentionally, and maybe this one.
For anyone who makes a living at the shore, the Labor Day weekend can make or break a year. It's a time to recover losses or maybe even make a profit. The people who own these businesses know they won't be opening up. And for others nearby, the weekend is in jeopardy.
Hoping to get open tomorrow, but I don't know.
Bobby D. owns Reed's Pizza, which is just 2 doors down from the T-shirt shop and arcade. His basement has some smoke damage, and he has to wait for the go-ahead from the Board of Health to reopen.
Labor Day weekend is usually the money that goes in everybody's pocket. All your bills are paid, your rent's paid, whatever the case may be, and that's all your take-home money. Now you got to do it. You got to write it off for a loss.
Boardwalk business owners in the area have had to learn to deal with fires. One in July destroyed 2 stores. Another last December took out an entire block. Joseph Mack has been burned out 3 times.
There's always that fear of fires.
Mack is thankful he won't have to close this Labor Day, but says he sympathizes with anyone who has to watch a potentially profitable weekend turn to ashes. In Wildwood, New Jersey, Rich Maneri, the 10 o'clock news.
Kenneth Lakeberg had a date in court today to answer claims that he violated his probation. Lakeberg is the father of conjoined twins who were separated at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia last month. While Angela, the twin which survived the operation, is struggling for her life in Philadelphia, her father is fighting to stay out of jail in Indiana. Dane Placco reports.
Think of your mom. Where's Grandma? Where's Mom? You know that?
A bizarre and humiliating scene for Ken Lakeberg. As he stood on the steps of the courthouse talking to media, family members took turns hurling hateful words.
You know what I went through, Kenny, for 3 months? You owe Jeffrey. I know. You don't even know how to apologize. I apologize.
Well, it came from the knife that he, attacked me with.
In May, Lakeberg was convicted of assaulting his cousin Jeff with a knife at last year's family Christmas party. As part of the probation for that crime, Lakeberg signed this document, promising not to drink or take drugs. But Lakeberg now admits he spent $1,300 of the money raised for his daughter's operation on a cocaine binge, a binge that could land him in jail.
Basically, the decision to send Kenny to jail for 1 year or to consider other facts to give him another chance will be up to the judge.
So the bottom line is, there's a very real chance that when Ken Lakeberg walks through these doors and into this courtroom on October 15th, he may not walk out a free man. The judge could throw him in jail.
I'm going right to rehab, probably Monday.
Do you think you can stay off drugs until then?
Yes.
But Lakeberg's made that claim before. In this letter to the judge last March, he promised to go to rehab, a promise he never kept.
I hope the best for his kid. I couldn't tell you what's going to ever happen to him because he'll never quit. He'll never quit using drugs or alcohol.
Lakeberg also told the judge he's about to sign a movie deal for the rights to the twins' story for $125,000, which he promises to use to pay restitution for his crime. But as a strange family says, the shame of this story is it's taken the spotlight away from little Angela, still fighting for her life.
I'm sorry, he's my nephew. We're very close. I've known him since the day he was born. I always loved him. But I don't any longer.
In Kentman, Indiana, Dane Placco, Fox News.
Aside from his other troubles, Kenny Lakeberg may be in the doghouse with his wife. Lakeberg apparently made a stop during his trip to Chicago Wednesday at a strip joint in Altoona. A stripper at the club says Lakeberg appeared to be on drugs and he was throwing money around.
I came on stage and he asked me what my name was and I told him Asia. He said he wanted a party and he had a lot of money. And I said, okay, whatever, but I couldn't leave the bar because I'm not that type of girl. So I was on stage dancing. He was tipping me 20s and 40s, and actually for about one set, he tipped me about $60 to $70.
Lakeberg denies going into the club, but the stripper says she can prove he was there because he forgot his glasses. When Lakeberg appeared at his Chicago hearing today, he was not wearing his specs.
A gunman dressed for battle shot up a state college construction site today and then couldn't be found for hours. The man wearing fatigues, face paint, and carrying a semi-automatic rifle didn't hit anyone. When he disappeared, police shut down the town's main thoroughfare as they searched for the man. Authorities had cause for concern because thousands of tailgaters were arriving for tomorrow's Penn State-Minnesota football game. Later on in the day, though, police found the body of Roger Grimes in a trailer at the construction site. He apparently had committed suicide. A woman from the West Oak Lane section of Philadelphia was hit with a Molotov cocktail this morning as she was sitting on her front steps. The incident happened in the 5700 block of North 20th Street. Police say a dark car with 3 males drove by and tossed out the homemade bomb. The 50-year-old woman was set ablaze immediately, but managed to make it into the house to call 911 for help. Police have no motive for the crime. They're still searching for the suspects. The woman suffered third-degree burns over 25% of her body. She's hospitalized in guarded condition.
A black man who was set on fire in an apparent racial attack New Year's Day says he felt a tremendous heat like you feel when lighting a stove. 2 white men are charged with the attack on tourist Christopher Wilson outside Tampa. Today, Wilson was on the stand in that trial. Charles Jaco reports.
His hands speak for him. Evidence of skin grafts necessary after Christopher Wilson was doused with gasoline and set on fire New Year's Day.
While I was running, I got to see my chest. It's all white, and you see like the skin hanging off. Look at my fingers, and you see like these deep cuts inside my finger. All I remember was hurting all over.
The state claims Charles Rourke and Michael Kohut did it, kidnapping New York tourist Wilson from this Tampa shopping center, taking him to this field, and burning him alive, leaving a racist note near Wilson's car.
Mr. Wilson, back when you indicated that the mean one was pouring gasoline on you, did that person respond to you in any way at that particular time?
Yeah, he said, no, you're going to die, nigga.
Now you're going to die.
The trial was moved to West Palm Beach because of fears of racial violence in Tampa in case of a not guilty verdict. Despite Wilson's gripping testimony, an innocent verdict may be returned because there are no fingerprints or other physical evidence, and because of the stumbling performance of lead prosecutor Henry Lee Coe. Coe is an elected state's attorney, a former judge who has not prosecuted a case in 22 years.
The problem is many times the elected state attorney is more of a politician and administrator than he is a trial lawyer. In this case, with the weakness of the prosecution, the weakness of the evidence, they need a skilled, experienced trial lawyer to carry the case to the jury.
The case could go to the jury sometime over the Labor Day weekend. Federal civil rights charges could still be brought against Kohut and Rourke, no matter what the verdict. But first, the jury here has to decide if they were the faces of evil Christopher Wilson saw before the flames consumed his flesh. Charles Jacobs, West Palm Beach, Florida.
There was key testimony today in the Reginald Denny beating trial. A helicopter news reporter identified the defendants as the men who attacked the trucker during last year's L.A. riots. Bob Turr said he was horrified as he and his wife circled the violence, videotaping the scene. Turr said he watched as Henry Watson and Damian Williams pulled Denny from his truck.
Mr. Watson used his right leg to hold down, it was Mr. Denny, and I now know his name, Mr. Denny. Mr. Williams came up and with, looked like a brick in his right hand, pulled back and reached back and slung the brick into the side of Mr. Denny's head.
Turr is the first witness to identify Watson and the second to identify Williams.
A North Carolina judge has warned court personnel and attorneys in the James Jordan case not to discuss that case in public. Defense attorneys want to limit publicity about the two teenagers accused of killing basketball star Michael Jordan's father. Today, the trial judge ordered that the defendant, Daniel Green, be held without bond. He made no decision on co-defendant Larry Demery. The judge has scheduled a hearing for September 17th on a defense motion to bar the news media from some of the courtroom proceedings.
Still ahead, Delaware officials investigate a mystery illness on the University of Delaware campus.
A former patrolman who is now the city's top cop goes back to the streets. And the first taste of freedom for some Chinese immigrants who've been spending time in an Allentown prison.
Hi, I'm Jim Palmer for The Money Store. Even if your credit is less than perfect, you can still refinance your first mortgage at today's low fixed rates. That's because The Money Store looks at your total credit picture and won't automatically disqualify you for late payments. At The Money Store, you can apply by phone and there's no application fee. So if you want to refinance at today's low rates, even if your credit isn't perfect, call 1-800-LOAN-YES. The Money Store, where America goes for money.
No matter how hard you try, sometimes you just can't get home fast enough to settle down in front of your favorite shows on Fox 29.
The sun has almost set on Summer Fantastico at the Olive Garden, but there's still time to enjoy exciting Fantastico food like pasta chips and dip, tri-color ravioletti, grilled zucchini on rigatoni, a marvelous mixed grill combo, super salads, and Fantastico desserts. And there's still time to enter to win a trip to Italy. But do come in soon with family and friends to the Olive Garden before the sun sets on Summer Fantastico.
Have you ever seen inside the earth? You'll be amazed at nature's work. Bring the family to Crystal Cave, which is a large underground wonderland. Here you'll see stalagmites, stalactites, and other unusual formations, making your tour educational as well as enjoyable. After you see Crystal Cave, browse around our various gift and food buildings, walk the nature trail, or play miniature golf. Enjoy a day with nature on Crystal Cave's 125 wooded acres. Visit Crystal Cave, Kutztown, PA.
Of all the credit cards out there, only one has Smart Rate, now as low as 14.9%, and no annual fee. Discover Card. It's a better deal. It pays to discover.
Immigration authorities are deporting most of the 300 Chinese immigrants who came to America on an illegal ship several months ago. But 7 of the detainees were granted political asylum today. Farland Chang talked to them after they were released.
This is their first taste of freedom in America. These 7 Chinese immigrants walk out of the Immigration and Naturalization Service tonight after being detained in prison for almost 3 months.
Very excited. That's the word they want to describe their feeling right now. They said they're like the fortunate ones who get their cases approved compared with those who still stay in prison.
The unlucky ones, like this man, were denied political asylum because they were viewed as economic, not political refugees. Yi Ning, a 22-year-old college student, is among the lucky few granted political asylum. Many of them say they were pro-democracy demonstrators. They say they were persecuted for their beliefs, and even now they are afraid to tell their true names for fear their families will be punished. Tonight they are being escorted by the Nationality Service Center to find a place to stay. They are free, but they say they cannot forget their nightmare on this ship and the 300 others who went through it too. To get out of China, they paid or borrowed tens of thousands of dollars from smugglers. Their trip included hunger, abuse, and sickness. So despite their new freedom, these men say they feel sad for their friends left behind.
They have experienced the same difficulty on that voyage to here. And if they're turned back to China, they're going to be persecuted by the government. And some of them will not be able to cope with the pressure.
They range in age from 22 to 43, owning little more than the clothes they wear. On the left, a sailor and an auto mechanic. This man was a farmer, this one a store owner, and this immigrant a factory worker. All haunted by the past, but now hopeful for the future.
Democracy, freedom, and human rights.
Over the weekend, these Chinese immigrants plan to stay at the Holy Redeemer Catholic Church in Chinatown, but they say they do not intend to be a burden to others. Some have family in New York. All say they are willing to work, so they contribute to their new home. In Center City, Farlin Chang, the 10 o'clock news.
A 21-year-old man is hospitalized in serious condition tonight after being shot during an attempted robbery in broad daylight. Police do not know where the shooting took place, but Ulysses Velez made it to the subway station at Broad and Tasker after he was shot. A cashier inside called the police.
And a rainy start to the holiday weekend, but some businesses say it's been a bright summer nevertheless. Those stories plus the holiday weather forecast and the day's sports on the 10 o'clock news.
S&C VPs save you money every day of the week. Only at Strawbridge & Clothier.
Summer clearance time is on at your Hyundai dealer. And up to $2,000 factory cash back makes it the best time of the year to buy the Hyundai of your choice. Right now, you can get into a sleek new Elantra for as low as $86.49. Plus, you don't have to make a down payment. No money down. And that's not all, because you'll get 2 years of scheduled service at no charge. So for big savings, no down payment, and no cost scheduled service, get into your Hyundai dealer today. Hurry in for the best selection during summer clearance time. Ends Labor Day.
I'm an old-fashioned guy. I believe in giving people more for their money. So not only is everything on Wendy's Super Value menu 99 cents each, but on our Junior Bacon Cheeseburger, you get 2 full strips of bacon. Our Biggie Fries are big, like our baked potato. Plus now a Wendy's quarter-pound single combo with Biggie Fries and a 20-ounce drink at just $2.99. At Wendy's, you don't pay more, you just get more. Every day. And that's the truth.
The 99-cent Super Value menu and $2.99 single combo only at Wendy's.
This weekend, catch real-life Dennis the Menace, Mason Gamble, plus John Tesh and Lisa Gibbons and funny man Larry Miller on The Jam.
Tonight at 11:30 on Fox 29. And now, the Delaware Valley's only primetime news hour, honored by the Associated Press as the best newscast in Pennsylvania. The 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, I'm Jacqueline Bolden.
And I'm Steve Coleman. Here's what's happening tonight. The Palestine Liberation Organization is moving closer to a landmark agreement with Israel on Palestinian self-rule in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank town of Jericho. Despite heated opposition, the largest PLO faction called Fatah has endorsed the plan, with a possible date for mutual recognition targeted for September 13th. Tonight, there is much work ahead for PLO leader Yasser Arafat, who appeared on Israeli television today with the words, "Peace has started." Martin Bell has the latest from Tunis.
Strange times in Tunis, where after 3 days of virtual news blackout, we were invited to the closely guarded suburban villa where Mr. Arafat holds court. He was meeting the Mufti of Jerusalem, spiritual leader of the city's Muslims, who has given his qualified support to the agreement with Israel. That now goes before the PLO's decision-making body, its executive. But Mr. Arafat indicated that he was tired of the talking.
We prefer to let actions speak. Actions speak louder.
What about the mutual recognition of PLO and Israel?
This will be discussed, and it is now under discussion, and I think 2 letters will be changed.
When will they be?
When? Very soon.
But the PLO leader still has a lot of work to do persuading his own people. These were Palestinians in South Lebanon demonstrating against the proposed deal with Israel, which they believe is a sellout. This is clearly a different PLO. At Mr. Arafat's villa today, there was special access for Israeli television. No more hostile talk of the Zionist entity. Later in Arabic, Mr. Arafat emphasized the difficulties of bringing his executive together. They were scattered all over the Middle East. Sources close to him insist that he is his own man with his own mandate. He will consult when he wants to, and when he wants to, cut the consultation short. Barring an unforeseen accident, the recognition of Israel is on the way. Martin Bell, Tunis.
A crucial endorsement of the plan came from Jordan's King Hussein. Hussein said in Amman today that he fears the plan could cause new turmoil in the region and send another wave of refugees pouring into his country. But he says the agreement could help streamline the peace process.
As we have always said, have no right to either criticize or otherwise. We have the right to continue on a path that we have chosen all along, and that is of full support to the sole legitimate representative of the people of Palestine and to the
Approval of
hopes
the deal was vital because half of Jordan's people are Palestinian or of Palestinian origin. A much less favorable response came from the fundamentalist Palestinian Hamas movement, which accused Arafat of treason and vowed to wreck the plan. A representative of Hamas says the group will escalate the Palestinian revolt against Israel's military rule in the occupied territories, and he called the deal a sellout. Pope John Paul II set foot in the former Soviet Union for the first time today. The pontiff is in Lithuania, where he will spend 4 days before traveling to the other former Soviet Baltic republics of Latvia and Estonia. 80% of the people in Lithuania are Catholic. The Soviet government blocked papal visits in 1984 and 1987. Pope John Paul appealed for reconciliation in a country which he described as martyred by 50 years of Soviet rule.
Elsewhere in the world, hundreds of Hawaii's Filipinos took part in a day-long wake for Ferdinand Marcos before his body is flown to the Philippines. The former Philippine president died in exile in Hawaii in 1989, 3 years after he was ousted in an uprising that installed Corazon Aquino. Mrs. Aquino refused to allow Marcos to be buried in the Philippines, but current President Fidel Ramos approved on the condition that the body be buried in Marcos's home province. During his 20-year rule, Marcos imposed martial law, suspended civil liberties, and arrested thousands and allegedly looted the national treasury.
Investigators say they want to reenact the bombing of the World Trade Center, tape it, and use it in court. The Trade Center was rocked by explosions last February. Now, explosive experts from the military and the FBI reportedly want to conduct a large-scale test explosion using chemicals similar to the ones used in the Trade Center bombing. One defense attorney has objected, saying the test would serve no purpose except to fan the fires of prejudice. 4 men charged in the bombing go on trial September 14th.
Coming up next, a price tag for the president's health care plan.
And is the fat in some Chinese food keeping customers away from Chinese restaurants? We'll have a report.
Julio Cesar Chavez. Pernell Whitaker. Whitaker, Chavez, the fight. Friday, September 10th, live on pay-per-view. Call your cable company.
There are cars with advanced engineering. There are cars that make you comfortable. There are cars that are well protected. There are cars that protect their occupants well. There are cars equipped the way you want. And cars that are easy to own now. Which one should be your new car? All of the above. Chevy Lumina Euro Sedan. Test drive a Chevy Lumina Euro today at your neighborhood Chevrolet dealer.
Of all the credit cards out there, only one has Smart Rate, now as low as 14.9%, and no annual fee. Discover Card. It's a better deal. It pays to discover.
He's a lover.
Christine, I forbid you to go.
You what?
I said I would really appreciate it if you would reconsider the decision. And a fighter.
A melonhead.
No, you little stork face.
A goober bread.
Yeah, banana neck.
He's a father.
Don't you want me to be happy someday, too?
Well, of course I do. Happy how?
And a friend.
Just don't get corn nuts everywhere, huh? Does he know me or what?
He's Coach.
Coming this fall to Fox 29.
You've heard from her.
Cool.
Now Adele would like to hear from you. Send your name, address, age, and phone number to Adele. P.O. Box 29, Philadelphia, PA 19105. Write to Adele. Who knows? She may just write back.
Officials in Washington today released more details of President Clinton's comprehensive health plan. The basic package includes hospitalization, preventive care, emergency services, in-home care, and hospice care. The plan will cover 80% of costs, and the insured will be responsible for 20%. Individuals will pay $1,800 for the coverage. Families pay $4,200. Administration officials say businesses will pay no more than 8.5% of their total payroll. President Clinton says he will present the package to Congress later this month while simultaneously pushing two other issues. Mr. Clinton and Vice President Gore will issue a report on ways to streamline government operations, and they'll try to get the North American Free Trade Agreement through Congress.
Health security, expanded trade, and reinventing government really aren't separate goals. They're part of a comprehensive strategy to promote long-term growth, increased incomes, more jobs, and a stronger American community.
Critics are saying that the president is trying to do too much at once, which they claim will make it harder for him to achieve his goals.
Yesterday, we told you about 7 Chinese refugees who won the right to stay in this country. Tonight, they are in hiding. The 7 men were the only refugees of over 100 detainees to be granted political asylum. But now the men are fighting another battle. They fear being captured by the smugglers who brought them into the U.S. Some say they owe the smugglers as much as $30,000, even though they spent more than 2 years of hunger and sickness aboard the Golden Venture before it ran aground off the coast of Queens, New York. Though the alleged leader of the smuggling ring has been arrested in Hong Kong, the refugees are taking no chances. They say they plan to remain in hiding with the help of American friends.
A new survey on the summer season shows that more Americans took a vacation this year, but the boom is not expected to last. The Travel Industry Association says there'll be a 10% drop in the number of people who travel this fall. Higher airfares, flooding in the Midwest, and Hurricane Emily are keeping some people home. When Americans do get away, 6% more of us are traveling by car.
And with lower gasoline prices, many of those people are flocking to the shore to enjoy the season's waning days this Labor Day weekend. As Richmond area reports, despite a damp start, businesses at the shore are hoping to benefit.
The gulls weren't the only ones leaving the beaches. As the rain began in Ocean City this morning, so did the exodus of holiday beachgoers.
That's it. Time to roll out of here. I'll take the kids back to the hotel pool and hope for the best.
Lifeguards were left with little to do, as only the true diehards didn't join the deserting flock. For financial reasons, this man was determined to stay and read his soggy newspaper.
Well, you pay $3 for a beach tag, so you gotta try to get your money's worth out.
A bad beach day is hard to accept for anyone who's made a special trip to the shore, but it's not necessarily bad for business. Rough weather tends to push people off of the sand and onto the boards.
Here we go. Last stop. Come on.
Shriver's Fudge at 9th and the Boardwalk was especially busy. Its owner is Hank Glazer, president of the Boardwalk Merchants Association. He says he expects a good weekend, rain or shine, but after the scare of Hurricane Emily this week, he'll take the sun.
A lot of people left the island because of the hurricane, but they've come back for the Labor Day weekend. The weather, it looks like it's going to be better by tomorrow, certainly. It's kind of hot in Philadelphia, so we think we'll have a good Labor Day weekend.
Glazer says it's been a pretty good economic year in Ocean City, much better than '92. While he is predicting a strong September, the thousands who came here this Labor Day weekend for one last glimpse of summer are hoping for something even more difficult to predict than the economy. Good weather. In Ocean City, Richmond area, the 10 o'clock news.
Some restaurant owners in Chinatown are upset with a study that came out this week that calls Chinese food high in fat, cholesterol, and calories. As Farland Chang reports, one owner wants the public to know that you can eat healthy Chinese food simply by using common sense.
some restaurant owners in Chinatown are worried that business has dropped slightly since last week's study, which found some Chinese food to be loaded with fat. The owner of Joe's Peking Duck House says, of course some foods are fat, including his own roast duck, red meat, and, of course, the fried egg rolls. But he says his customers can easily avoid the fat by choosing the right dishes, prepared the right way.
First, tell the servers, the waiter, the manager, whoever is serving them, what they really want, what their diet is, and what their requirement is.
Patrick Lee says his chef will then use less oil. That immediately cuts down on the fat and cholesterol. You should then order plenty of steamed fresh vegetables and white meat chicken. Mr. Lee says this dish is both fat-free and oil-free. So is this spinach dish.
It's a spinach which contains a lot of vitamin and iron.
I think the food's great, and I think that if you eat the proper things, vegetables and the white meats and chicken, fish, that you're fine.
Instead of ordering the lemon chicken with the fried batter, Mr. Lee suggests you choose the same chicken and flavor without the crust. Another healthy choice is steamed fish. Mr. Lee says this sea bass is low in sodium, and this steamed Norwegian salmon fillet is fat-free. One dish that is low in calories and cholesterol is this seafood noodle dish. Choosing the right dishes is one key. Eating the right amount is another. Last week's study by the Center for Science in the Public Interest says Americans eat 4 parts meat to 1 part rice. But in China, people eat 4 parts rice to 1 part meat.
Chinese food, without rice, it's not a complete meal.
The study says you need not avoid Chinese food. You just need to eat it the way the Chinese do. In Chinatown, Farland Chang, the 10 o'clock news.
Still ahead tonight, investigators look into the death of the actor perhaps best known as Tattoo.
And the storm weakens, but
advanced technology gives you great...
Think of unique ways to raise pennies and dollars needed to help fight neuromuscular diseases. We participate in activities like fashion shows, hopathons, and penny games. Pennies add up. They show us the power of just a little bit, and the pennies raised from tender care centers come with something magical, the wish of a child. We truly do care. KinderCare.
You're here, and I'm delighted to see you again.
Well, it's great to be back, Jerry. You know, when we added up all those pennies from kids and parents and employees, we came up with a check for you for $912,000.
That's pretty nice.
And a big KinderCare hug.
Thank you.
See you next year.
Okay, sweetheart. Here's Ed McMahon.
For the 4th consecutive year, the nation's largest cable television operator, Telecommunications Incorporated, TCI, has played a vital role in supporting the work of the MDA. TCI is committed to assisting MDA in its efforts to help individuals with neuromuscular disease live an independent and productive life. So, people like Matt Schumann is a busy newspaper reporter from Greeley, Colorado. Look what he's doing.
Matt, where's that story I've been looking for? I need it in 5 minutes. Okay, Jim, that'll be done in about 5 more minutes. You just got to add a couple quotes in.
Well, you know, the quarterback, he's just better with the ball, and it's running just like this, you know, so I just came in, I was just exactly.
That's a great story to work on. Get that 360 before you come in. All right. Yeah. All right. How long are we going to be? So I know Chris last 4 calls today. So good. That shouldn't take too long. Another paper down. Oh, yeah, that was a tough one, but man, it's good to get it out. It's a good one. So what are you going to do this weekend? Oh, just left of it. I'm just going to kick back and relax and goof around and have some fun.
Our prayers are with Matt as he fights double pneumonia. Please get well, Matt. We all love you. My next guest is a young lady I had the pleasure of introducing at a comedy festival this June in New York. Please welcome Carol Leifer, right here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. How is our live audience here today? How are you? Good to have you all here. I am feeling really good today. It is an honor to be here. I'm wearing a new perfume that I should recommend actually to the women in the audience. It's called Tester. And you know, it smells different every time you use it. Unbelievable, though. I came in from New York, driving here last night from the airport. Thank you very much. Got pulled over for speeding. Yeah, but, you know, I did the old. Officer, I don't think someone as big and strong as you wants to give little old me a ticket now, do you? And she let me go. So I flew in, as I said, from New York. You know what my favorite part of flying is? If you ever pass the stewardess when you're leaving the plane, you hit that minefield of goodbyes. Bye-bye now, goodbye, bye. Bye-bye now, bye. 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 Goodbye. Bye-bye now, bye. Goodbye. Bye-bye now, bye. So let's see, do we have single people in the audience tonight? Today, actually. Some single people? I'm single. I was married, but it didn't work out. I was part of a mixed marriage. I'm human. He was a Klingon. The beginning, that's the best part of any relationship. Don't you think, the beginning? That's when we put on our lingerie, right? Ladies, first couple of months, you're strutting around the bedroom, wearing a teddy. Yeah, 6 months later, you've stopped shaving your legs. And you look like a teddy. You know, women, though, lingerie, I am totally against it, and I think you should stop buying it right now. It's a big ripoff, am I right? I mean, $18 for panties this big? Come on, one trip through the dryer and it's a frilly bookmark. You know what I noticed, though? The older I get, the pickier I get about men. Like, I have a thing about back hair. Yeah, see, I don't mind a normal amount, you know, but if a man's back hair can be mistaken for a throw rug, then I think it's time to buy the Epifella. But on behalf of all the single women in the audience, there's something I'd like to say to the single men, and that is, cologne is for after showering, not instead of showering. Thank you. Little public service announcement.
On the wheel and turn the key. Hurry! Ford's factory-authorized clearance ends soon.
People are hurting terribly. Children are hurting. Senior citizens are hurting.
New Jersey's Democrat politicians gave us billions in higher state taxes.
How is a family like us supposed to go on?
Tax, tax, tax. That's all they know.
Tax and spend, the Democrats' motto.
Now New Jersey's lost 286,000 jobs.
My son has lost his job. Had one under the Republicans, but not under the Democrats.
It doesn't look like much of a future for her if it keeps going the way it is.
Vote Republican to clean up the mess.
Tonight on Channel 6 starting at 7, Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, Day 1. Then the Cowboys battle the Redskins, followed by Action News and Nightline. Action News, Delaware Valley's leading news program, with Gary Papa, Dave Roberts, and Jim Gardner.
Monday night, a protest fails to fly at the annual Higgins Pigeon Shoot, and U.S. helicopters take aim at Somali guerrillas in Mogadishu. But the big story in Action News tonight is gunfire and death interrupting the holiday atmosphere of the boardwalk in Atlantic City. Let's go live to New Jersey correspondent Joe Torres with the latest. Joe?
Jim, life here on the boardwalk in Atlantic City back to normal. The scene last night, though, very, very different at this gazebo between South Carolina and Ocean Avenues. Panic and pandemonium as gunshots rang out, leaving one person dead, another seriously hurt.
Well, I heard 2 shots. I didn't see anything except the people running and screaming, and I did see the lady on the bench and then the man laying on the boardwalk.
The shooting happened at about 10:15 last night at this boardwalk gazebo between South Carolina and Ocean Avenues. 33-year-old Eileen Myers of Langhorne, Pennsylvania, sat here with her boyfriend when the gunman approached. Police say Kevin Bliss of Hudson, Florida, fired one close-range shot to the back of Myers' head. Authorities say he then ran south about 50 feet and turned the .25 caliber pistol on himself. Detectives say there was no connection between Bliss and the victim.
We're, at this time, considering it a random shooting. We have no motive at all.
Meanwhile, back on the boardwalk, merchants remain shocked at the brutal attack and how it shattered the quiet calm of a holiday weekend.
Oh, yeah, it was scary. It was scary. Unbelievable. Because we've been here 14 years, never heard or seen such a thing.
Now, Kevin Bliss was pronounced dead at the Atlantic City Medical Center shortly before 11 o'clock last night. As for the victim, this just in, Miss Myers, just out of surgery at Thomas Jefferson University Hospital gym in Philadelphia. The bullet has been removed from her head. She is still, though, in very, very critical condition. Police now say that the gunman last night was toying with the gun before he fired it. I'm Joe Torres reporting live on the boardwalk in Atlantic City. Jim?
Thank you, Joe. Of course, Labor Day is meant to pay tribute to working men and women in this country, and today thousands of them took part in the traditional Labor Day parade in Philadelphia. We get that story from Action News reporter John Rollins.
As far as the eye could see along the Ben Franklin Parkway, there were workers, some walking, some driving, all of them union. The song is Happy Days Are Here Again. Are they? There are bright spots. The Clinton White House has okayed the rehiring of union air traffic controllers and signed a Family Leave Act. But organized labor continues to be squeezed.
Very high unemployment. It's not dropping. The extended benefits program is about to end. Wages are dropping. I mean, I think there's a real struggle ahead for working people.
These striking hotel workers will tell you about wages. Many of them were making $8.25 an hour at this hotel near Vet Stadium. Last spring, new owners, which included former Eagle star and union rep Ron Jaworski, took over and imposed a pay cut.
$2 less an hour cut. We didn't go to that. This is why we've been on the line since then.
1,800 PGW workers have been on the picket line for a month after management imposed a contract which forces workers to pay up to $160 a month to maintain their Blue Cross coverage.
If they can give the city over $34 million a year, why can't they pay our plan? Our plan is less than $1 million. Now, why can't they take care of us when we are the cogs that's making the industry work?
Union strength continues to erode. In the 1950s, 35% of the workforce was unionized. By 1980, that had fallen to 23%. Currently, fewer than 16% of America's workers are in a union. Some 3,000 newspaper workers say they are fighting to keep union jobs. Philadelphia's biggest papers are relying increasingly on lower-paid, non-union labor in the suburbs. The unions want that work. A September 1st strike deadline has been extended. An unusual Labor Day bargaining session began after the parade ended today. One union leader joked, hopefully that will bring them good luck. John Rollins, Channel 6, Action News.
And there has been a major piece of news on this Labor Day, and organized